Hi, Tim. Tim Bullock is an attorney licensed in Tennessee and, correct me if I'm wrong, in Colorado as well, and in New Mexico. And he has extensive experience in real estate. He actually had properties that he had purchased and fixed and sold. And I believe there were 17 of them that he was actively involved in. And Tim is a kind of guy that we would want to have as a member of our Cash Flow Breakfast Club. Unfortunately, Tim is not local, so we will not be able to see him in person during our event, which is our inauguration event is planned for April the 10th, 5:45 p.m. I'll provide the link to it. But Tim generously agreed to take part in our podcast and answer some of our questions. And I would like to ask Tim to tell us a little bit about himself, how he, came to real estate and what his expertise is. Tim, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your involvement with real estate and the real estate law?
Well, my professional life started working for a British bank on Wall Street and in London. And subsequently, I returned to Colorado to marry my wife, got into real estate, did fix and flips. As you said, 17, I believe the count is, and mostly in the Denver area, but I've also done them in Florida as well. And currently I'm on the downslide toward retirement in my legal career. I'm currently in the Los Alamos area of New Mexico. I have 2 kids. One's a merchant mariner. The other one is in weapons at the Los Alamos laboratory. And I have a wife who's retired.
Great. I have a few questions I would like to ask you if you don't mind, and they're related to real estate and to legal side of it as well. My first question would be, what would be your advice to people that are just starting in the real estate, be it investors or wholesalers, how to navigate path without running afoul of state and federal regulations? Now, I know for a fact that each state has their own regulations and they can be different from state to state, but what would be your advice to people that are just starting on that journey?
Journey of what? Real estate?
Real estate, yes, sir. No. Real estate, strictly real estate transactions.
Okay. I would recommend staying in residential. I think that people are more and more working at home. It's a new paradigm. I would don't over leverage. Be careful about the money that you borrow. Be ultra conservative. Watch every cent. Manage your project every day. Be on top of things. Hire competent people and find the absolute best tax person you can find.
And when you say don't overextend yourself, you mean don't get too excited and do too many projects, taking too much debt where you take a high risk of 1 or 2 of them defaulting and everything falling like the house of cards. I mean,
You've always got to have a contingency. And if something doesn't work out, you need to know where your next step is, where your next move is. It also helps to have reliable, faithful bankers and financial people that believe in you. And because things don't always go smoothly, and occasionally you're going to need somebody to give you a hand.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I think, especially in this line of business, I have seen that happen a lot. I have seen a situation where somebody had taken a nice project that was numbers worked well. The house, ARV, the value, the purchase price, budget, everything looked perfect on the paper. But what happened was that the contractors had to come and fix the project at the house. They took the money and they fled. And the guy was just in utter despair, and he thought he will lose everything. He was about to default on his loan if he couldn't deliver the project on time. And the lender, who happens to be a former investor and the wholesaler, is still he's still a long-term property holder himself. So occasionally he will find some properties and buy them. He sent his own crew to literally rescue his borrower from the default. It was very nice of him, because he could just stand back and wait until the guy defaults and foreclose on the property and get it at whatever amount he got the note signed to him. So he didn't do that.
And forever.
So that was a real situation, and those situations do happen. And I think they can happen to anybody, but especially if you are new in the business, you are at high risk because you don't have those connections and those vetted people. You don't have all those contractors that you can 100% rely on. So yes, I would say it's extremely important to have that tight network of people that you can that trust you and that you can ask for a hand, help in a time of unexpected things happening. And then in terms of the tax, can you little bit elaborate on that? I believe what you are talking about is the tax laws that allow you to get certain benefits in the real estate, as well as having an expertise in your tax preparer to make sure that you don't underpay your taxes. So can you a little bit elaborate on that subject?
In real estate investing, state and federal government is a partner, and they're sometimes a very big partner. Obviously, doing fix and flips involves 1031 exchanges. If you mess up any single stage of a 1031 exchange, it can result in very hefty consequences. That's one example. The other thing is retaining your money. Every day that we're in this country, our money goes down in value significantly. I think over the last 4 years, we've seen 23% inflation, food inflation, a little bit less than that in hard goods in the consumer price index. So you need to figure out how you can at least preserve your wealth once you achieve it. And a good tax person is vital to that. For the first probably 15 years of our marriage, I made a point of going to a different CPA every year and comparing their responses. Our tax consequences from year to year didn't vary dramatically, but the tax advisors and the returns that they prepared for us seemed to vary wildly. We finally landed on a fellow in Tennessee that we liked a whole lot and we stayed with for about 5 or 10 years, but unfortunately he's passed away. So right now we think we found another person in Los Alamos that we're banking on. He knows his stuff, and he has contacts at the IRS, and we feel very fortunate to be in his care right now.
Yes, couldn't agree more with excellent advice. And in your past experience as investor, what type of properties? I guess you mentioned the single-family homes. Were those
in rentable markets. Sometimes the best markets are the ones right just ahead of gentrification. For example, we've been very successful in the Denver Country Club area. Before that all gentrified, so to speak. I don't think it's a negative term, but you know what I mean when I say that. We've been very fortunate in making investments in the path of progress. And if you have a little bit of patience and you play your cards right, tax-wise, there's money to be made out there.
Your 17 projects that you worked on, and you mentioned rentable markets, did you hold on to them to rent, or were they or were you looking at the market, at the rental cost in the area in order to calculate your ARV so you could buy them at the right price and sell them quickly after the...
We did whatever made sense. Probably the craziest thing I've ever done has been to purchase a house on a corner lot, and the house was actually on 2 lots. The lot could be subdivided. And so one night we went there with a big crew. We lifted up the house. We moved it to another lot several blocks away on a piece of property that we purchased, placed it on a new foundation there. And then on the property that was we moved it from, we subdivided that and built 2 additional houses there. And that turned out to be profitable.
Yeah, I heard those stories. Actually, they're very interesting stories about the land in particular. There was one guy, he's actually in business of selling the software now, but he said at some point his dad, who was one who brought him into the world of real estate, he bought a piece of land, then subdivided it, which is fancy term for going to municipal government and bringing your proposal and telling them, hey, here is how we're gonna, pave the roads. These are the, specific lots. This is how we're gonna provide them with the heating, electricity, etc. So then you get the permits. So he did that, and then the land that he bought, the acreage that he had, when he subdivided them, the half of that land, the half of the acreage he had, he sold to a developer. And how much the land appreciates once you have all those permits and subdivision paperwork approved. So he could make, a good profit out of that. And he used that money. He developed his site too. And that's how we got...
Great way to make money.
That's a very good example that you brought about the land. The land is... I'm not into the land yet, but it's something that I will explore in the future because I know you can do a lot of things with it. So it's a smart way of making money, I think. So my other question would be, in the real estate transactions, what are the most tricky and most circumstances that you should avoid? Basically, what should you protect yourself from as an investor when you get into these transactions?
You try to predict the future as best you can and be in a position where you have an exit strategy if the market turns south, which has happened to me. And luckily I had an exit strategy and was able to get out of the property before the real estate market really went downhill for a period of time.
So we are talking about 2009, I'm assuming, right? Around 2000. Around that time. And just before everything tanked, you were able to get rid of the properties?
You could feel it in the air. And I sold what I had to other investors and got out.
Yeah, and I think that's, by the way, that's also very good advice. I hear that from lenders. They say always think about alternative exit strategies. What if your property, what if you fix it, you try to sell it, and you are hoping the market will be the same as it is today, but 6-7 months from now it has changed and you can't. Can you actually rent it for the amount that would allow you to pay the DSCR mortgage and maybe make some little positive cash flow on it? Because I wait 2 or 3 years until the market, changes, then you can sell it. Can you do that? So their advice is don't depend on just one. So I would say it's very, very wise and good advice. And I guess, I'm very grateful for you to be a part of this podcast and answering our questions. I want to give you an opportunity to tell a little bit about how people can reach out to you, what services you offer, your phone number, your contact information. And, basically, if you have a link or anything, I will put it under the video as well so they can reach out to you.
Well, my website is Bullock Law LLC at google.com, at gmail.com rather, and my email is bullock.law@gmail. And if I can help anybody, I'm certainly happy to do so. I can only practice law in 3 states. I very purposely don't step into any other state and practice law where I'm not licensed.
And those states are Tennessee, Colorado, and New Mexico. Those 3 states. And our viewers, we have people that do business nationwide. A lot of the wholesalers in particular, they do a lot of remote transactions. And I couldn't emphasize enough the importance of knowing each individual jurisdiction's laws and regulations as it applies to real estate and wholesaling in particular, if you are doing the wholesaling.
And
so I think
knowing the market.
Knowing the market. Absolutely. And someone like Tim could be a great help, a great resource answering those questions. And Tim, I look forward to having more of this podcast with you and having more of these conversations with you. And I really wish you were close by. I would love to see you in our inauguration event. But other than that, I think we will continue our virtual conversations in the future. So I want to appreciate you for coming today and sharing some of your wisdom here. Thank you very much.